nice because I know down in Port St. Lucie, there's not tons of restaurants. Are there a lot of restaurants down there that you can eat down there?
Yeah, I mean it's really been built up over the last 15 years or so. So there's a lot of stuff. I mean, you're not gonna there's not a lot of 4-star, 5-star restaurants, but there's plenty of options. Let's put it that way.
I tell you one thing, when we had our spring training down in Fort Lauderdale, that was fun. We had a
Oh,
really
yeah.
good time down there.
Oh, I can imagine.
Oh, that was a time of our life down there. And then those guys went to Tampa, and it's okay. Tampa's pretty
Okay.
good,
Yeah.
but nothing like Fort Lauderdale. Nothing
Yeah.
like and they had that big song "Where the Girls Are," and that's where they were. That's where they were down there. I mean, it was fun. Fort Lauderdale was fun. It was it's a lot different what y'all go through now and what we went through, but hey, it's the time of the I mean, it's changing of the times and stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
you've been a beat writer for what, 12, 13 years?
Yeah, it's my 12th season on the Mets. Yeah.
Is it really? Congratulations, Big Guy.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks.
I think, yeah, but the Post is a great, to me, I love the Post. I mean, it was a great paper to us. And, but we had a lot of people on our team where it's a lot of print there. And, when you had a Reggie and you had a Thurman and you had, Catfish and Sparky, and, that's why they called us the Bronx Zoo. We had a lot of print, but it was fun.
Yeah, you guys sold a lot of newspapers back in the day.
Oh, yeah, we did. We did. And people didn't realize, the Yankees at that particular time, we probably had, I was telling guys and they said, really, what type of guys were you guys on your team? We probably had a fight every single day in our clubhouse. Always. We always would have a disagreement over cards, over, they playing dominoes, they're playing pool. And we would always have a fight, always have not a fight, but a little maybe push around, tug around.
Yeah.
And then we go on the field, Mike. I mean, it's like it's two different types of teams. I mean, we're wild, in the clubhouse, and then we got on the field. It was totally all business.
Yeah.
I think George was watching us the whole time. So we had to make sure we're good. But let me ask you a question, Mike. And I know that you've been following the team an awful lot, but the only time that I ever get, the Mets or the Yankee baseball are basically when the MLB will carry the game. And down in Atlanta, unfortunately, we get the Braves all the time. So
Sure.
I think you're going to have a pretty decent season this year. I really do.
Well, I mean, they went out and the big trade was getting Francisco Lindor from Cleveland. That's as good a shortstop as you're going to find anywhere. Now the key will be, do they sign him to a long-term extension here? But Lindor, now they bolstered the pitching staff a little bit. They got Carlos Carrasco in that trade, but he's hurt already with a torn hamstring. So they're kind of filling in from the back end right now in the rotation.
Well, I'll tell you one thing, you're not going to do for any type of money. I think the money's going to be deep pockets like George was. If he wants somebody bad enough, I think he's going to get it. Yeah,
I mean, you have the wealthiest owner in sports right now with Steve Cohen here, $14 billion.
Congratulations. It should be fun. I mean, I think when you have the Steinbrenners and now you got the Steve Cohen, I think that now are they going to be? It's just going to be like Vegas. Are they going to play against one another? And I think that I think both teams are going to have a pretty decent team. I mean, I'm looking at the Yankees, and unfortunately, you can't go down there now. And but you just watch them, and if they don't have any injuries, if the Mets does not have any injuries, I think it's going to be a pretty wide open, season this year.
I think, I mean, you look at the two divisions, the Mets, I think the NL East is probably the toughest division top to bottom, because you're talking about the Mets, the Braves, the Nationals, the Marlins are improved. They made the playoffs last year. The Phillies are a good team. And you look at the Yankees in the AL East, it's a little bit more top heavy, but you got the Yankees, you got the Rays, and Toronto's improved certainly. And can you ever really? I don't know if you can count out the Red Sox just because they're the Red Sox. So I think the East is where the best teams in baseball are in both leagues.
Now, I got a question for you. Now, being in the National League for almost your whole career, what do you think about the universal DH? Do you like it?
I like the universal DH, especially after last year with them using the DH. Now going back to the pitcher, it just seems like you're taking a real step backwards there. And I'm of the opinion I don't think people want to see pitchers hit anymore. I know that there's the strategy angle and the double switches and such, but at the same time, I think people want to see hitters hit. They don't want to see the pitcher going up there bunting or striking out.
I totally agree. And you watch BP all the time, and these guys, they really, they hacking away. They're not trying to bunt. It's no small ball like a Billy, like Martin, how he played, and the Joe Maddens and the first and thirds anymore, and the suicide squeezes. I don't even know. Has anybody ever tried a suicide squeeze in the last few years?
It's been I see him occasionally, but
that's a lost word, isn't it?
Not much.
Suicide squeeze.
Not much. Most guys don't even know how to bunt anymore, so let alone suicide squeeze. But no, we still have a week here where the two sides could get together and decide to put in the universal DH. I don't think there's any momentum right now, but you know how these things work. We saw it last year where right a few hours before the season started that they changed the format for the postseason, so that they still could agree on something here. And the Mets would benefit more than most teams in the National League with the DH, because it would allow them to really improve their defense. You got Dominic Smith, who emerged last year as a very good hitter, but he's not a left fielder, and the Mets are kind of forced to play him in left field without the. So it would really benefit the Mets a lot if the sides get together and decide on the DH.
I don't think the National League, 50% of the people love it, 50% of the people hate it. People always, me being the first DH and, in 73, I screwed up the game. I tell people I screwed up the game because after 48 years, they could talk about analytics. They could talk about this and that and this, but they can't make a decision about, the DH. I don't get it. I really don't, because, you talk to Hal Steinbrenner, you talk to Brian Cashman. You look at all the pitchers that got injured when they hit with the Yankees, like Tanaka and all those guys. They just cringe when they get on base. And
we see it in the National League too, where every year there's a pitcher that strains an oblique swing in the bat. And the other thing I look at, Ron, is I just think it's kind of silly that you have two sets of rules. You have the American League doing one thing, and the National League doing the other thing. I mean, let's get together here and do it in a uniform way, especially now that it's not like 30 years ago where the American League just played the American League. We have so much interleague now. And then there's always the issue of, okay, they're going to do the DH in the American League part, and the pitchers hitting the net. It's just, all right, let's get on the same page here and let's move forward and have everybody use the DH.
Do you think the game is going to eventually go back to the way that it was used to play? Maybe not in a total sense, but do you think the analytics will not play as bigger part in the next few years? because you look at what happened to Snell with Tampa, and that was a major thing. I mean, he's throwing 98. I mean, he's hitting the black in every pitch and stuff, and they getting him out. After whatever. I mean, I just, I mean, being a hitter, and if a pitcher is having a super game, and if he has having a 1 or 2 hitter, and I'm up to bat, I know that I'm going to see some good pitches. I know that I know that his ball's moving, and I know that he's hitting the spots, but it gives me a lot more incentive, maybe not to bear down, but to watch the ball maybe a little bit harder, and to pump up a little bit more to try to get a base hit off of a guy that's having his best stuff, like DeGrom. I mean, it seems like to me for the last 2 years that he doesn't have a bad ball game, and and people didn't realize he was, what was he, a third baseman coming out of college?
He was a shortstop coming out of Stetson, and he started as a shortstop, and they used him as a reliever a little bit, and that's how they found out he could pitch.
Did he ever pitch in college?
He pitched as a reliever, so he started as a shortstop, and by the end of his college career, he was pitching out of the bullpen mostly, and then the Mets drafted him as a pitcher. They knew he could pitch.
Could he hit?
Not to the level that he's shown. Obviously, I think DeGrom was a 10th round pick, if I remember correctly. No, he's a guy who's evolved as he's come along here. The Mets drafted him, and he immediately had Tommy John surgery, so they didn't get to see him right away. And then he came back, and even in the minors, he was a guy who he was throwing hard, and back then, now we're talking 2012, 2013, he was throwing 95, and that was opening eyes. He was throwing 95. Now a lot of guys throw 95. No. Probably most guys throw 95. Now DeGrom is throwing 100, 101. But even in the minor leagues, he was a guy who was throwing hard, but he wasn't getting the results. He was pitching to 4.5 ERA in the minor leagues. So he's a guy who kind of learned how to pitch here as he came along.
But people don't realize that it's really, I mean, back, I have to go back to the times we're playing. I know that times have changed, but the name of the game is to, it's not how, well, it is nowadays, how hard you throw. But if you have, people say, well, this guy's throwing 98 miles an hour, but his ball could be straight as an arrow too. Like DeGrom, the only time I ever get to watch him is on TV. And, when you get the angles on TV, it's really deceptive. I mean, it's really hard to judge his pitches. But if you watch him pitch, and he's so much in command, and, he reminds me of so much of who he reminds me of a little bit? He reminds me of like a Bob Gibson a little bit. Mm-hmm. And when he's out on the mound, that he's a bulldog, and and you don't hear about him getting injured too much, do you?
DeGrom, the last 4 years, he's barely missed a start. He might have missed one start a few years ago, but the last 4 years, we're talking about a guy who's taking the ball just about every turn of the rotation.
And you look at Garrett Cole too. I mean, here's a guy that, I think they're the same type of pitcher in a sense where they don't ever want to come out of a game. And, DeGrom, I mean, they're looking for him to go 7 innings. Am I right? Every single game.
Well, they pretty much expect it at this point. And DeGrom expects it. And, it's almost a surprise when he doesn't. He's kind of he's one of the few guys where you don't worry about third time through the order, or the only thing is pitch count. They're not going to let him go out there and throw 120 pitches, but they'll certainly let him go 110, 112, whatever. So no, they expect it every time he goes out that he's going to go 7 innings at least.
I'm going to ask you a question now. I'm going to go back then, back when we played. When you had a Jim Palmer, Nolan Ryan, Bob Gibson, every single game they're throwing 115, 120, 125 pitches. Okay, what's the difference? I got to understand this. What's the difference between the pitchers now and the pitchers back when we played, where these guys threw a lot of innings, a lot of pitches, and they really didn't get hurt that often? Tell me okay. You got to give me the answer on that thing.
I don't have the answer for you. I wish I had that answer for you, Ron. I would just say that in this era, they just don't let the guys.
I know that.
They don't. They come up in the minor leagues, and that's the way it's structured now. That's it. You're gonna stop it. Even 110 is pushing it for most guys. So, a kid coming up today has no experience going that deep into it. And I think it's really, even as, you go back to the 2000 World Series, Al Leiter was left in the game, that last game 5 of the World Series, for 142 pitches. That's what, 20 years ago. And Johan Santana, when he threw his no-hitter, the only no-hitter in Mets history, was left in to throw 134 pitches. Now that's a little different because it was a no-hitter. They were letting him chase history there, but it's really changed, I'd say, over the last decade, where there's really a kind of a hard cutoff now at 110. You're not going to see guys going 125, 130. And certainly not what Al Leiter did in the World Series in 2000.
I'm living in Atlanta, and Atlanta is a major hub for high school baseball and, of course, college baseball. And I hear these parents all the time, and I hear them, and I'm not talking, I'm just listening to them. And they said, well, my son is going to pitch 32 pitches. He's going to play in this high school game, and they got him set for 32 pitches. And I'm saying to myself, 32 pitches, playing baseball, 32 pitches, these parents know exactly how many pitches they're going to actually throw. And, when you look at this, and when you play baseball, where are you from originally, Mike?
I grew up in Connecticut.
Okay, you played stickball probably. You probably played a lot of stickball. And you played and played and played and played. And I guarantee you, whenever you hit, you never pulled an oblique. Did you ever pull an oblique?
I don't ever recall pulling an oblique, no.
I never knew what oblique was until like 2-3 years ago. Till all of a sudden, the Yankees started getting all their injuries. And all their injuries, they had oblique muscles. They got this type of muscles. And I'm saying to myself, I used to hit and hit and hit and hit my whole life. I don't think I ever pulled a muscle on my side. And nowadays, it's the baseball is exactly the same.
You probably weren't as built up as these guys are, though, as far as, in the weight room and tightly wound. And I think that's where a lot of it comes from.
I was just looking at Chapman, and they had a picture of him on, I don't know if you saw it. His arms as big as people's legs. And, it was incredible. And I'm looking at this, and I look at, and, when I go to Old Timers Day and I see the guys like Judge and Stanton and Sanchez, these guys are big. And, the days that we played baseball, the big guys were the Frank Howards and the Boo Powells.
Yep.
And, Richie Allens and people like that. And nowadays, these guys, instead of, like David Coney said to me, he said, have you ever seen a fat person pull a muscle? I said, no. He said, that's why they pull in muscles, because they don't have any type of cushions on their, their sides. There's just the body weight is, body fat is probably, 6% rather than it used to be like 20%. So, I don't know what to say. I really don't know what to say, Mike. And, and you see it all the time and you follow it all the time and you see the difference between baseball back in the day and what it is now and stuff like that. The baseball that you look, the game of baseball, do you like the game when it was played back then, or do you like it how it's played now?
I thought it was more watchable. If going back 20, 25 years ago, I mean, going back to the 80s, the 90s, I think it's a more watchable game then than it is now. It's just, it's a challenge sometimes to, and I think it's reflected in the product and what we're seeing in the attendance. And it's just, we have a constant stream of pitchers coming in and out. We have guys taking more pitches than ever before, seeing more pitches, used to be. And listen, I can't blame the hitters because that's the way they're taught now is to go up there and work the count and look for a specific pitch. And the Mets have a guy who's one of the best at it, Brandon Nimmo, their leadoff hitter, has an unbelievable eye, and he's able to draw walks. But we have so many walks and strikeouts within the game now that it's a challenge sometimes to really get into it.
It is. I mean, I was talking to Art Shamsky a few weeks ago, and he said he was watching a game. He said there's like 18 strikeouts from both teams.
Yeah.
And he's, I mean, it's, he said, God, these guys taking it right here. They're not swinging. They swing at the first pitch. You learn to swing at, a fastball, a breaking pitch. And then they go up to bat and they see a breaking pitch on the way on the outside part of the plate, and they're swinging at it and stuff. Yeah. And, it's no discipline like it used to be, I don't think. And so, it's changed, but hey, it is what it is. We can't change it. You can't change it. And maybe they'll have the universal DH. It'd be fun and great and everything like that. But let me ask you a question now. Let's talk about your book.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your book. I'm so proud of your book because you got Keith is doing the forward of the book. Now, I was talking to you before, getting all the quotes from the dugout and the locker rooms and the press boxes and stuff like that. The locker rooms, that's a sacred place in there. And you got some people talking to you. How did you do that? Well,
I mean, the thing with this book is it goes back. It's basically spans 20 years, a little over 20 years when I first started covering baseball back in the late 90s. So I started in 98 with the Bobby Valentine era. So, the people I talked to for this book are basically people I've developed relationships with over the years. And starting with Valentine in that era and moving forward, Mike Piazza, Al Leiter, Billy Wagner, R.A. Dickey, David Wright. So it kind of stretches the gamut of 20 years. And, the first chapter starts in 98 when the Mets were building up when they traded for Piazza. And it goes through the end of 2017, maybe a little bit into 2018 with David Wright's last game. And it basically encompasses my years covering the team. Now, as far as the interviews, I did a couple of them and some stuff in the locker room, talking to some of the current Mets, but a lot of it was just catching up with guys over the phone, talking to Bobby Valentine for an hour on the phone, talking to Terry Collins for an hour on the phone, or Billy Wagner, and just getting their recollections of certain events. David Wright, I talked to 3 different times for the book. Mike Piazza talked to me for an hour down here in Port St. Lucie spring training last year. So it encompasses the 20 plus years. And, I have a chapter on the Santana no-hitter, which I referenced earlier, and, the only no-hitter in Mets history. I've got a chapter on the '06 Mets that went to Game 7 of the NLCS, losing to the Cardinals. And it goes right through the years. The 2015 run to the World Series. I think there's some pretty good insights from some people who worked in the front office at that point. And there's some surprises in there. There's some things in there that Mets fans are going to look at and be like, "Wow, I never heard that before." That's interesting. Noah Syndergaard, who hasn't talked to the media in over a year now, he's rehabbing from Tommy John surgery. He talked to me extensively for the book, and he offers up a couple of surprises in there. So I think if you're a Mets fan, you're going to love it.
You're such a good writer. And I have my book that's coming out. I think yours comes out the end of April, doesn't it?
Yeah, April 27th is mine.
It comes out on the 20th.
Okay.
And, and it's a lot of work. I'm just telling you, at least you got a job. I don't have a job. I've been out of work for a little bit over a year. We can't go anyplace. So I started
Right.
the book, and I'm having so much fun with the book, and the fans are, they love it. The New York fans, the Met fans, the Yankee fans. If you get personal with the fans, people don't realize the fans are the ones that made us. Okay. And, I look at them as a hero. I lived my fantasy. Now I'm living my life through these fans now, because they know more about me than I know about myself. And they tell me about this game and this game and this game. And I'm writing a book about Thurman, and people didn't realize that Thurman was a family man. He was a wonderful man. When he's out on the field, he was nasty. We talked about he's Jerry Grody, but Jerry's nasty off the field too. He's tough off the field too. I know Jerry, and he's a tough guy. But Thurman was a guy that he loved the fans, but when he's out on the field, he's out there and making sure that everybody is on the right mode. And he's looking at the pitching staff, and this pitcher is not throwing real well for 2 games, and he'll go up and talk to him. Or sometimes that a writer might say something bad in the paper about him. He'll jump down his throat in a second. Hey, and he was that type of guy. But when he's off the field, Mike, when he's off the field, he was a teddy bear. We did so many things together. He was a wonderful guy. Diana, his wife. It looks like I'm going out there, and he has a big day in June the 25th, I believe, out in Canton. And myself, and I think a couple of other guys might be going out there, and we're going to have a thing with him and Diana. And hey, it's your book. It's exciting. How many books have you written?
It's my first book.
Is this your first book?
It's my first book.
How long did it take you?
It took me about a year to write it. I submitted it now last April, actually, and then we've made some, changes as we went along through the months there, some edits and everything like that. But I worked on it for a year, and it was a challenge because, I'm on the Mets beat. That's a job and a half.
Oh, yeah.
Just covering the team, and then, trying to line up interviews, with players and former players and executives and such, and then sitting down and doing the actual writing. I'm sitting here now. I don't know how I did it, but somehow it got done. And
you know what? This is my second book. My first book was great and whatever, but this book is, of course, my last book. But this is I'm really doing everything I possibly can to push Thurman into the Hall of Fame. And, I mean, being part of Thurman and, unfortunately, he did not get along with a lot of writers, and a lot of writers stumped him off. And but I'm trying to do everything I possibly can to show what type of person he really was. And I mean, I told my fan that whatever I do, all these books are for Thurman and for Diana because he was my brother, and that was the type of guy he was to me. And did you ever meet Thurman?
I no, you know what? I was 9 years old when he died in the plane.
Oh, don't say that. Well, you're a baby then,
So, I was just a kid. Yeah, I mean, I was a Yankee fan growing up, so I was obviously crushed when it happened. I still remember a lot about that day, August 2nd, 79. And you talk about Thurman. The thing I think about with him is he was 32 at the time. He probably would have played another 4 or 5 years. But then I think he would have managed the Yankees afterwards. I could totally see that as somebody who would have gotten a shot managing the team if he wanted to do that.
But I think he would manage, but I think it would have been very difficult to fire him. And that's why I think Donnie Baseball, that Manley never got the head coaching as a manager for the Yankees because George liked him too much. And if he was having a bad year, to get rid of him. That's very difficult to do that. And, and I could see Thurman, that would be the only way Thurman would ever go back to baseball after his career was over with, was to manage the Yankees. If to be a coach, no, because he would want to live out in Canton with his investments and stuff. And were you a Yankee fan or were you a Red Sox fan or what?
I grew up a Yankee fan in Waterbury, Connecticut, which is
Waterbury, yeah.
Waterbury's kind of the dividing line between Red Sox.
I played at Waterbury at the high school field there, and had on the field they had those crosses. You know what I'm talking about? Those they had the crosses on top of a mountain.
Oh yeah, that is Holy Land in Waterbury, which is you see the cross on I-84 as you're driving through there. And did you play in Waterbury in the Eastern League?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and that was at that time there was the Cincinnati Reds then.
Yeah,
it was Cincinnati then. No, I'm sorry, it was Cleveland. It was Cleveland back then.
They switched every few years. It seemed.
Yeah.
When I was growing up, the first team I remember in the mid '70s, they had the Dodgers there. Pedro Guerrero, remember him?
Okay.
He played for the Waterbury Dodgers, and then the Giants came after that, the A's and the Reds, the Angels. Wally Joyner, remember Wally Joyner?
Sure, yeah.
Played for the Waterbury Angels. And the Indians came with Jay Bell and Corey Snyder. So they had a lot of guys that came from Waterbury. One of the first ones was Richie Zisk.
Oh, yeah, with the Pirates.
Waterbury Pirates back in the late 60s.
Yeah.
Was one of the first big major leaguers to come through Waterbury. So they had the Eastern League for close to 20 years in Waterbury, and I grew up watching a lot of that. Yeah,
that was in the high school. That was a high school field that we played in, because I remember there used to be not seats; they were like old high school football seats.
It was like bleachers. I mean, it was an old stadium. They built it during the Great Depression, and there was if you remember this, there was a gravel track that ran through the outfield.
Yeah.
That was just, it was crazy. I mean, it was not at all anything close to these modern facilities. I mean, but
no. People don't realize, when you go to a game now in minor leagues, I mean, it's like going to a big league game. When I played in the 60s, growing up, when I signed in 67, we played on fields like, you had to go out there early to pick up the rocks. If you play in first base, second base, or shortstop, they'll have that, that tractor, they're pulling that, to rake up the infield. And after they do that, you're standing for the national anthem, and you got gigantic boulders this big after they took out. And, during the game, you're just like throwing them out. And that's what we used to do. I played on Manchester then, Manchester, New Hampshire.
Okay.
I was on the Manchester team.
All right.
And you ever been to Manchester before?
I don't think I've been to Manchester. No.
But now they have a really nice ballpark. Does Waterbury still have a team?
No, they lost their team in the mid '80s. You know, the attendance dwindled and the stadium deteriorated even more, and it just got to the point where the city didn't want to invest in the stadium. The team left. You know, it's funny. Terry Collins, who managed the Mets, played in Waterbury in the mid '70s, and his teammate it was with the Waterbury Dodgers. One of his teammates was Jim Riggleman, who
Riggleman, sure.
Many years. I have fun talking to guys who came through Waterbury to play, because you know they have stories of just playing in the in that stadium where you know the lighting wasn't great, and you had the gravel track in the outfield.
Oh, the lighting! You have like you have three like flashlights, you know, on each pole, you know, and you got guys throwing like. Back then, you had guys, you know, throwing hard. You know, you think they're throwing real hard because, I mean, you got three lights and, you know, I mean, you got the infield. And, you know, I mean, hey, people don't realize, you know, when we had a team, I forgot where we used to, I think we stayed downtown Waterbury, I believe. I'm thinking back now. And I remember the clubhouse that there was like two faucets that came out of a concrete, and you had 25 guys trying to take a shower. And, you know, you got like two things, a bar of soap, and you got 25 guys. And, you know, after a ball game, they stunk. And, you know, and after the ball game, you know, you're trying to run back and find a place to eat.
Yeah.
And, you know, in Waterbury.
Yeah. There's nothing over. The thing that I remember, the third base dugout was above ground. So you had the first base dugout, the home dugout, there was a real dugout.
Yeah.
But the third base dugout was above ground. So every time there was a big storm or something like that, that dugout would get wiped out in the storm, and they have to build a new one. So
see, that was the days. Let me tell you something. You know, we didn't make much money, but we had to play hard. And when you're in the minor leagues, you got 25 guys or 26 guys on the team. But, you know, like every game, there's like 3 or 4 guys get released. And then all of a sudden, there's 3 more put on the team. So, I mean, you room with like 4 or 5 guys, and all of a sudden in the middle of the night, you know, they get released, and you got other guys coming in. But hey, that was the type of life that we lived. It was fun. It was great. And I really enjoyed it, Michael. And, you know, I mean, hey, you know, you're a great big guy. And, you know, I mean, it's you know, you're going to have a good season this year. I think the Yankees, if we stay healthy, I think, do we play the Mets? Yeah, we play the Mets, what, twice?
Well, there's 2 series, including the one at Citi Field is going to be the weekend of 9/11. So it's going to be Yankees Mets on 9/11 at Citi Field, and that'll be special this year with being the 20th anniversary of the attacks, and they'll have a special ceremony. So I think that's great that Major League Baseball set it up that way.
Do you think they're going to open it up? How long do you think it'll be before they open it up?
Yeah.
In your opinion.
When you say open it up, you mean the full capacity?
Let's say I don't think it's going to be full capacity this year. I think the most you're going to go is maybe 60, 65, 70% at the most, I think.
I don't know, because you talk to people with the Mets, and they including Steve Cohen, and they think there's going to be full capacity before the season's over. Now, maybe that's not, you know, May, June, but maybe it's August, September that you know that they think it's going to be that way. So we'll see. I think by the middle of the season, though, they could be certainly playing to half capacity. You know, that would be what, 21,000 at Citi Field, maybe by the All-Star break.
Do you think a lot of people be afraid to go out? I think, you know, because being in Atlanta has been open around about 70, 80%. Even from last year, it's been pretty open. But you talk to the people up in New York, Connecticut, Jersey, and, the majority of the people are in. And, do you think they're going to have a complex that, even when everybody gets their shots, hopefully, you think a few people are going to be afraid to come out?
I think there'll be some trepidation at first. We've a lot of people have been inside for over a year now, so I think some people will be nervous, but just seeing, we get to opening day with what's it going to be now, 20% maybe in the ballpark. I think people will see that, and gradually it'll build up, and people will lose some of their anxiety as we go along here.
Yeah, it's crazy. Most of the guys, I was talking to some of the guys on the team, their major thing was to go out before a game and to hit those fakey people in the stands with the balls and stuff like that.
The cardboard guys, yeah.
Yeah, and they're throwing it at those guys. They have contests throwing against those guys. But, let me ask you a question now. You think, you being up in the press box, if you open it up, somebody started sneezing, you're going to think about somebody, you all going to get up to leave,
Yeah, well, I think even if we have a lot of people in the park, we're going to be wearing masks for a while here. So that's something to take into account. But yeah, I mean, we're in spring training down here in Port St. Lucie, and we're wearing masks everywhere we go around the park. And the media, they have our workstations distanced apart. So they're certainly still taking it seriously still down here in Port St. Lucie, and I think that's the case everywhere.
In your opinion, you think the Mets will make a trade before the season?
Before the season, I don't think so. There is some concern about the back of the rotation right now. I think that, like everybody else, they'd like to have more catching, but I don't know that there's a trade to be made before the season. I think they'll go with what they have at this point, and if there's a glaring need at the trade deadline, they'll look to address it. But at this point, I think they're going with what they have.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be much of a trade with the Yankees at all either. I think they're going to go. I think they're going to behave if they stay healthy. If the Mets stays healthy, and I think it's going to be fun to watch. It's going to be great for the people up in New York to get all this anxiety out and looking at all this bad stuff that's happening, and watching some good baseball and watching some pretty good pitching. And I think everybody's going to get out of it. Lenny, let me ask you something. Do you have any guys asking any questions? Can you hear me? Can anybody hear me on the back end? No, they can't hear me. But anyway, sometimes.
Yeah, we're here, Ron.
Do you have anybody has any questions?
Thanks for your kind words, Ron.
You're welcome.
So what is the Mets starting rotation going to be this year, going into the season?
Yeah, you've got DeGrom at the top, and I'd put him ahead of any pitcher in baseball right now. So you start with DeGrom, you go to Marcus Stroman, number 2. Their number 3 is a guy they signed who would pitch for Seattle and Toronto last year, Taijuan Walker. And then the back end is where you're getting into some shaky territory. A lefty, David Peterson, who pitched fairly well as a rookie last year. And then the 5th spot's kind of open right now. Joey LaCasey, a guy they traded for. He pitched for the Padres the last couple of years. And then Jordan Yamamoto, who they traded for with Miami before the season. So, those 4 or 5 spots in the rotation are certainly a concern right now. I think they're pretty comfortable with their big 3. And then Carrasco's got the torn hamstring, and Noah Syndergaard's rehabbing from Tommy John. So you can get both of those guys back in June, maybe Carrasco in May, Syndergaard in June. then you keep them healthy, you have a pretty good rotation. But there's certainly concern right now about the back end.
Thanks. Do you anticipate the Mets bringing back things like Banner Day and Old Timers Day?
I think they're going to do a lot of that. Yeah, I think Steve Cohen wants to do that. He's talked about wanting to do Old Timer Day. Now Banner Day, I haven't heard too much talk about Banner Day. I don't know what they're going to do with that, but I think they want to do Old Timers Day. And Cohen seems very receptive to tuned into what the fans want. One of the big things on social media has been fans clamoring for them to bring back the black jerseys that they used to wear, and I think at some point we're going to see that too, because that seems to be something that's popular. Not on a full time basis, but maybe they'll wear once or twice a week the black uniforms.
That's funny because the Yankee fans hate the dark jerseys. They want them in their pinstripes.
Yeah,
all the time.
the Yankee fans want some pinstripe, sure.
I did have another question now. I don't remember what it was. Go ahead, Ron.
Okay, but I think that's a win-win situation for y'all to have Old Timers Day. I had no idea why the Wilpons, and I was talking to Jay Horwitz a few years ago, and I said, Jay, this is a no-brainer. The Yankees, when you have an Old Timers Day, it's unbelievable. The Yankees have had this for the last, how many years? 50 years, 60 years, or whatever. And it's probably one of the best weekends ever. They run the ship. It's incredible what they do for the players and what they do for the fans. And I think the fans love it. And to have somebody to come out for the 69 Mets, have somebody come out for the 86 Mets. And, when you have a Darryl Strawberry or Dwight Gooden, somebody like that, I think that's a no-brainer. And, I think Steve is, I never met him. I don't know anything about him. I just know, he's done real well in his life. And I think he might try to be the same type of guy as George. And, when you have deep pockets like that and the stock market's going up and, his stuff is doing pretty good. And I just think that they're going to do something. And I think the fans love that. The fans talk about this. Us as a player, when we go down to Yankee fantasy camp and when we talk about it, during the season, before the Old Timers, everybody said, "Are you going to go to Old Timers this year? Are you been invited for Old Timers?" It's a real big deal when you get invited to Old Timers Day. It's a big thrill, and luckily I think I've done it for 16, 17 years, and it's a wonderful time. It's great to see, the fans. It's great. It's good for the writers like yourself to, I guess, get good print, from some of the old guys. And, you haven't seen them for the last 10, 15 years and they're going to lie to you anyway. They're not going to tell you the truth. and all their stories are going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. Am I right? Am I right, Mike?
It's true. And
the home runs instead of, you used to see me hit the ball. I hit one about 565 feet and just barely went over the left center field fence, 365, 370. And it gets farther and farther and farther and farther. And who was really good at that was Joe Pepitone. Pepe was great at that.
The master was, for me, and I covered it through Yankee Old Timer Day, the master was Goose Gossage. It was always, back in my day, we walked to school in 3 feet of snow and, we'd pitch 3 innings and, today's closers, they only pitch 1 inning. I pitched 3 innings and Goose was the master of that, and listen, Goose had the Hall of Fame career. He certainly backed it up, but he did love to talk a good game.
Oh, he did. But let me tell you something. When he came up as a starter with the White Sox, we jumped on him. He had, I don't know if you remember, it was Goose Gossage and Terry Forrester. And
Yeah.
Terry Forrester back then was a big, probably 6'4", 275-pound lefty that threw hard. I mean, his ball was just heavy as anything. I mean, you could put like a 10-pound weight on it. That's how heavy it was. And when you had Goose threw hard, but his ball was straight as an arrow. Straight as an arrow when he was a starter. That's why they made him as a relief pitcher. But, I mean, and then once he became a relief pitcher, for some reason, people would say, well, he loved to have that scuffed ball. And, they never threw his ball out. He always made sure that, the ball, in the infield, he always kept it, and that was the ball that he used. But his ball was a heavy ball too. I mean, it really was. And, I mean, it's, hey, when you get older, your stories get bigger and bigger and bigger. And each and every old timers day, you get the younger guys, you get the Tino in there, you get the Bernie Williams, and they're talking about, because they just played like 3-4 years ago, 5 years ago. And then they talk about their home runs, how they used to hit it. They don't understand in about 5 years, nobody's going to know who they are and stuff like that. And he's going to be talking to, they're going to be talking to guys that's a lot younger than them down in Yankee old timers day. And they're going to keep on saying, well, my ball is almost hit the scoreboard out there. And then next year, 2 years later, I hit that scoreboard. You see number 1 up there? I hit that ball against so-and-so. You should hear these guys talking. I mean, you should hear, it's funny. It's funny. We used to have, there was 2 guys on the team, of the funniest 2 guys ever in the game of baseball. I don't know if you knew it. It was Oscar Gamble and Mickey Rivers.
Well,
They were the funniest 2 people you have ever heard in the game. Mike, in the game of baseball, we used to get on that bus. Nobody used to talk. And they used to go and they used to talk and talk and talk and talk. And they are incredible. The stories that they used to tell, it was the best of the best. And, even if you talk, if you get Rocky, if you ever get Swoboda and you get Mickey together and you get Art Shamsky together and you get Crane together, and they just they love to listen to Mickey and the good old Oscar, and we miss him to death and stuff like that. But did you ever talk to Mickey at all? Did you ever have the pleasure of talking to Mickey?
I remember seeing Mickey around spring training. This is going back.
What did he tell you?
Probably close to 20 years ago. But Mickey, he was an original, and he if I remember correctly, he used to love to play the ponies. Correct?
Oh, he was the best. He was the best. Oh, we had some guys that really do that. That was real big. That was real big. They had the OTB was real big back then. Down in Tampa. I don't know if Port St. Lucie, they have the track down in Port St. Lucie.
There's not a track here, no.
Not a track. Okay. So Mickey would not be, he would not do real well in Port St. Lucie. But Tampa was really good because they got the Tampa Downs there. And after fantasy camp, I mean, him and Roy White's real good. Mike Torres is real good. They're really good at all that stuff. And you remember Billy Connors? Billy Connors, pitcher?
Sure.
He had a horse. He had a couple of horses in Tampa. Did you know that?
I didn't know that. No.
Oh yeah, at Tampa Downs.
Okay.
And they had all just the track. They used to have the TV, just the track that goes directly to the horses. He was the best. He was the best of the best. But we did have some great times, Mike. We really did. You gotta, hey, before we leave, you gotta talk about your book one more time. You gotta talk about your book,
sure.
Guy.
Yeah, so it's actually it can be pre-ordered now on Amazon. The release date's April 27th, but you can order it now on Amazon. If These Walls Could Talk, New York Mets. It basically encompasses the last 20 plus years, going back to the Bobby Valentine era is kind of where I started. And I had a great time writing this book. And I think if you're a Mets fan, you're going to love it. There's a lot of stuff in there. And you'll get a charge out of it. I know I had a great time writing it. So, like I said, it's available on Amazon and April 27th release.
I'm going to ask you one more question.
Yeah.
Give me your all-time Met team.
All-time Met team. Okay.
Yeah, I want to hear it. I want to hear it.
Well, first base, I got to go with Keith Hernandez. He wrote the forward on my book, so I have to give a no. But he would get it anyway.
Yeah.
Let's see. Second base. Let's go with Jeff Kent at second base.
Okay.
All right.
Now Kenny Boswell. You don't remember Kenny?
Yeah. Now you're going. Yeah. Shortstop. Who are we going to go with at shortstop? We could go with Buddy Harrelson at shortstop or Jose Reyes.
Okay.
Third base. I think it's got to be David Wright. Outfield. Let's see. Who do we want in the outfield? All-time Mets team. Darryl Strawberry and Wright. Who are we going to put in center field?
AG.
Who?
AG. Tommy AG.
It could be AG. It could be Tommy AG. I feel like I'm missing somebody obvious here.
Willie Mays.
Willie Mays. I mean, yeah. Let's see. Let's bounce around a little bit. Catch will be Piazza, right? Strawberry and Wright. We got to fill left and center right now. Let's go with we'll go with AG in center. And who do we want in left field? Now I'm thinking maybe Edgardo Alfonso at second base. He's one of the great all-time Mets, a little bit underrated. Left field. Who do we want in left field? I know it's not Kevin McReynolds.
Who's the other guy they gave that real big contract to that played left field? What was that guy's name? The real tall guy, about 6'4", 6'5". They gave him like a 5-year deal.
What era are we talking now?
2000.
Jason Bay.
Yeah, that's him. Jason
No.
Bay.
I don't think
No,
he's making the all-time team.
No, that was a terrible contract.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that didn't work out.
I'm kind of cheating.
I don't know if I've got a left fielder. Give me a couple options here. I'm drawing a blank.
You don't like Kevin McReynolds?
No.
Okay.
Cleon Jones.
Cleon could be in the conversation. I feel like I'm missing somebody obvious.
Well, in center field, I've been Googling, so
Okay.
Carlos Beltran.
Yeah, like I said, missing somebody obvious. Beltran's got to play center. Yeah. Okay. And
Who's
then
left?
Who do we have in left field? I'm going back through. We probably have to go back to the 80s. No, we don't want. I don't think it's anybody from the 86 Mets. They had George Foster. They had, but he didn't play well when he was with the Mets.
Kevin Mitchell.
He had a good
brief time.
He had a good career after he left the Mets.
Right.
I don't know. I don't know who I would put in left field right now.
Okay. How about pitching? Who's your right-handed starter?
Okay. Pitching is easier with the Mets. You Seaver, you start with him, and then you go to DeGrom. Then you go to Gooden. That's a good top three right there, right?
Yeah.
How about John Matlack, maybe,
Medlock, yeah,
and Jerry Kuzman.
that's right.
That's a pretty good rotation right there. Seaver, DeGrom, Gooden. I'm going to put Kuzman fourth, and then Matlack fifth.
How about relievers?
Relievers. Well, I guess Johnny Franco. You got to start with him. All-time leader in saves among left-handers. So John Franco. Let's see, who else we going to put in there?
Roscoe.
Yeah, you can put Jesse. I think you can put Jesse Roscoe in there. Yeah. How about Billy Wagner had a few good years with the Mets. I would consider him. I think I'd put him in there. Roger McDowell, maybe from the '86. From the '86 team. I'll put him in there. It's bothering me that I can't come up with a left fielder though for our all-time.
Lenny, who's the left fielders?
Well, the consensus seems to be Cleon Jones.
Bobby Bonilla?
No, it's not Bonilla.
Oh.
No.
Did Mookie Wilson play left? I know he played.
He played some left field. Yeah, but played left and center. I don't know if Mookie's. I don't know if Mookie would be my guy. Yeah.
Now, your all-time manager
for the Mets.
Uh-huh.
It's a tough one. Now, only two managers have won a World Series with the Mets: Gil Hodges and Davey Johnson. So it's one of those two. I would probably go with Davey Johnson because of I look at the '86 Mets, and that was one of the top teams of my lifetime. They won 108 games, and so I'll give Davey Johnson the edge over Gil Hodges, but that one can kind of go either way.
Okay, that was pretty good.
Yeah,
that was pretty good. How was that, Lenny? Joe, how was that?
That was excellent.
That was fascinating. Yeah, that was.
We got it. Well, y'all did it again, Big Guy. I think the fans love this. And, Mike, I really appreciate you doing all this for us. And I know this is, you had a lot to do up in, Port St. Lucie tonight. But I appreciate you going on Zoom. I hope your book does extremely well. I hope to meet you on some book tours if we have some book tours. If we do, it'll be fun. And anything you need from us, you just let us know. And I wish you the best of luck, Big Guy. And I think y'all going to be good. I think we're going to be good. And we might see each other during the season, if we get lucky. So that's
well, thanks for having me.
Michael.
All right,
Michael,
thanks for having me, guys.
Michael,
and have a good season.
Thanks, Michael. Mike, thanks very much. Have a great season, Big Guy. And if you see Jay Horowitz, tell him I said hello. Would you do that for me?
I will do that.
Do that. Thanks, Big Guy. Thanks, Michael. Thanks. Thank you. Joe, Lenny, it's great to see y'all again. Happy haircut. And Guy, it's getting shorter. Your hair is getting really short now. This is season. And, when Joe is getting ready, you better watch it because it's hot in Hawaii. It's hot over there.
All right. Enough with the personal stuff.
Okay, we can't talk personal anymore.
Yeah,
Hey.
he doesn't want burglars showing up at his house.
No. Hey, I'm glad that you like the book, Joe. I'm glad you like the book.
Awesome.
Really,
Awesome.
I'm glad you were crying in the last 4 chapters.
Well, now I laugh, but I
You
did
laugh
cry when I
now.
read it the first time.
You laugh now. Okay. When are you leaving, Joe? When do you actually leave?
Okay,
Huh?
we're gonna have a great show next week, right, Lenny?
That's right. We're going to have Eric Sherman on, author of, it's a book about the 1986 Boston Red Sox. Joe, what's the name of the book? I know you have it in front of you.
No, I don't have it in front of me.
Oh, Eric's
The
going to be
two
very
sides.
unhappy. Eric's going to be unhappy with me.
It's this book, The Captain and Me. This is this book.
So anyway, next week we're going to have Eric Sherman on with Joey Sembito, who played on the '86 Red Sox. Joey was also a former Met. Joey's from Long Island, so I don't know if I should call a 68-year-old man Joey, but whatever. Joe Sembito. Joe Sembito. All right, everybody. Thank you, Boomer.
Well, thank you, Lenny. Y'all the best, like always. Joe, when you leave in a few days, right?
Not going anywhere.
Oh, Joe is. Joe's leaving.
Yeah. In a few days.
Hey, have a wonderful time.
But you're leaving the guard dog at home, right, Joe?
Absolutely. I'm actually having my brother-in-law stay in the house, so that way we know we're safe.
Okay. Be
And
safe,
by the way,
big guys.
the name of the book is The Two Sides of Glory.
Two Sides of Glory, right? The '86 Red Sox.
I love y'all, big guys. Y'all be safe.
Okay.
Lenny, I talked to you. Tell Allison I said hello. I know it's your
It's all right. You don't have to talk about that either.
because you're eating. It's your dinner time. Love y'all. Y'all be
Love
safe.
you.
And
Thanks,
it's
guys.
my time right now. I'm going to eat some bananas.